What's up, guys? It's Parallax Abstraction, and this is Retro Flashforward, showcasing gaming's roots in the current generation. Yes, indeed, we are playing a new River City Ransom game in 2017. A lot of people never thought this would happen, and it totally did. River City Ransom is a game I've never covered on my channel before. That is a horrible omission on my part, but it is one of my favorite NES games and one of my favorite brawlers ever. And as a fan of the brawler genre, that's saying something. Yes, this is an officially licensed sequel. As you saw at the beginning there, it has the blessing of Arc System Works, who recently, well, a couple of years ago, purchased all the old Technos properties from Million, which was the company that was holding them before. And it's funny that this comes out pretty much on the heels of Double Dragon 4, which Arc actually made themselves and was not great. This is done by a completely different team. It is an indie team called Canatus Creative, which is actually their core base is in my hometown of Ottawa, Canada, which is pretty awesome. But they are largely a virtual team with developers all around the world. And this was a Kickstarter. Full disclosure, this is a Kickstarter that I backed back in the day when I actually did back Kickstarters. So I did not get review code for this. I am playing this with my purchased backer key. So yeah, this has a pretty interesting pedigree behind it. The original creator of Double Dragon and the other Technos properties, Yoshihisa Kishimoto, was actually a creative consultant on this game, and the fantastic chiptune soundtrack was done by very well-renowned indie chiptune musician Disaster Piece, who worked on games like Fez, Bit Trip Runner 2, Hyper Light Drifter, and a bunch of other stuff. And really what this is it's a sequel to River City Ransom, takes place 20 years after the original game. And it's really everything about that game blown out to a larger degree in many ways. There's more characters, there's more levels, there's more stuff to do, there's more story, there's more of really everything. But, well, is it a worthy sequel? I think it is in many ways, but for a game that's been in development for so long, to be frank, it has a lot of problems too. But we'll get into that. So just to give you an example here, so here's River City, and there's a lot of different screens in each of these different little districts you're seeing here. So there's actually, there's quite a bit to do here, quite a few places to explore, and that's what was cool about River City Ransom, is it was basically a very early concept for the open world game. It was a game where you could go anywhere you wanted, you could tackle objectives in different orders, and especially if you were playing it with a friend, you know, you could do things your own way, and that was very unusual back in that day. And this is really that expanded. So you can go to all sorts of different places in here. There's all kinds of shops to visit, different hidden areas to find, all kinds of different stats you can buy, and there's quite a bit to this. There's also, well, a number of different characters. So I'm playing Glenn here, but you see you've got all of these different characters, and these guys, they all level up independently, and they all have their own unique stats and abilities, which is what makes this interesting. So it gives you sort of a variety of different ways to play and different fighting styles. The original River City Ransom only had 2 characters, and mostly due to the lacking buttons on the NES, there was very little you could do with them other than punch, kick, and jump. And in this game, well, each character actually has their own move list, and you can buy different moves for each character later on at various gyms and arenas and things like that. So it's got almost a light fighting game level of depth. One of the problems, unfortunately, is that some of these combinations don't work very well, or actually are incorrect. And there are hidden ones as well that you sometimes have to discover by mashing a little bit. But there is nonetheless quite a bit you can do in here. And you can see here that each character has statistics, so you can level up these characters as you go along. I'm going to show you a little bit about what this involves. So I have a mission right now that I've actually been having a bit of a hard time doing. I have to find a guy. I've taken out a couple of bosses so far. I've been playing for a couple of hours, and I have to take out another boss here for someone that's on what's called Riverside Bridge, which is to the left on the map there. And some of the bosses and missions that you will have to do, it will not explicitly tell you what it is it expects you to do. It's just like, hey, something's going on over here, maybe you should look into that. So that's what we're going to do here. And I've been having a little bit of trouble with that. So, so you missed a little tooltip there, but this game also has a day-night cycle, which the original did not have. So time of day will advance. There is no way to manually advance it, which can be a bit of a pain sometimes because certain types of enemies and objectives and whatnot only come out at night. So sometimes you might just have to kill time, which can be a little bit of a bummer. This game does maintain a lot of the original systems and design elements of the original River City Ransom, and sometimes that's not always for the best. So you see here I'm beating up a whole bunch of different enemies. So the idea is that River City is a very 80s style city that is overrun with various different gangs, and despite the fact that they apparently have a police force the size of a small army, which we'll get to later, the gangs kind of control everything, and everything in this is very tongue-in-cheek. You know, the gangs are all kind of caricatures. They're all very goofy and dumb. This is not a serious game at all. You know, it's very goofy and colorful, and you know, the narrative is not particularly dark. It's very dumb and comic bookish. It kind of almost makes you feel like this is what the developers thought, you know, American cities in the 80s when gang violence was rather prominent were like. It's kind of funny. Also, I like the fact that some of the street things in this are actually named after places in Ottawa. Like, we actually have one of the prominent roads in this city is actually called Riverside Drive, which I find kind of amusing. So you see here I'm beating guys up, and I'm doing it with a few different ways. So I've unlocked a couple of moves for this guy here. So I have this downward jump punch. I can also do this. So you walk, but you can, if you double tap in a direction, you run, kind of like a fighting game. And I have this move unlocked where I can charge at guys and do this uppercut, and I can take multiple guys involved in with that. You can also, as you can see, you can pick dudes up. You can use dudes as weapons when they're picked up. You can also throw them. But if a dude that you've picked up recovers, he can basically stand on you and jump off. You can also, if you're playing in co-op, you can also pick up your partners and utilize them to your advantage as well if you like. Like I said, very goofy, doesn't really make a lot of sense. But that's kind of the point as well. And, well, this is the principal meat of the game's mechanics. It's beating up dudes. It's a brawler, right? And that's the main thing you do in brawlers is you beat up dudes. Now, one of the things that some people might like and some people might not is that this game is very, very grindy. You're going to have to take out a lot of guys, so you level up each character independently. But the thing is, leveling up a character, so let's go back here. So leveling up a character does not actually increase your stats. All it does is increase the maximum stats. So you see the number on the right there that says 25 for all those different things. So leveling up means you can increase that more. Now, how do you actually get the stats to go up? You do it by buying different items in the game, whether it's food, whether it's books. You can go get training on different kinds of moves if you want. You can do a whole variety of different things like that, and that is what's required. Now, I'm hoping coming here at night will actually bring this boss out. When I came here during the day, I basically cleared this area out and nothing came of it, so I'm hoping that's what's happening here. You can see there's also various things in the world that you can pick up. There's items, sometimes there's things like tires, there's melee weapons like bats and crowbars that you can use against enemies, and any item that you pick up, I'll show you here. Yeah, here we go. I'll show you here. So I'll pick up this tire, right? Now I can either beat a dude with it, which will do a lot of damage, but it's fairly slow, right? The other thing you can do is, with items like this, is so I can beat him like this, or by pressing the throw button. What are these guys doing? You can do this. So you can sort of throw an item, and you can, if you time it right, you can actually hit multiple dudes along the way on the path and do damage to a group of people, which is kind of cool, right? So you have some flexibility in how you can do that. Now, of course, the enemies can do this to you as well, and the interesting thing is there's also splash damage. So if I throw that tire against a wall and it bounces back and hits me, it'll hurt me too. So you have to be careful with this thing. You can't just, whoa, I didn't expect that to happen. So you gotta be careful and strategic with these things. You can't just go, while there is a lot of button mashing in this, just straight button mashing is not how you're gonna ultimately succeed in this game. There is actual strategy involved in this. You sort of saw what happened a little bit there. So there is actual ricochet in that, which makes the systems a little more interesting to play with. And there's a lot more between the moves and whatnot, and sort of the way you can manipulate the environment like this. There's actually a lot more depth to this than you might think. You know, the reason the brawler genre kind of died out back in the day is that it was frankly pretty thin. There wasn't much to it, there was not a lot of depth, and it was sort of a one-trick pony that got old very quick. And this guy's still not here. I don't friggin' get it. Huh. Oh well. Anyway, we'll just go around and look at some more stuff here, and I'll sort of show you what we're looking at. And actually, I'll go to the other side of the bridge here, and I'll show you guys what shopping is like. So, Yeah, but they've actually managed to get a lot of depth into this game through the different characters and the progression and the different types of enemies that you'll end up dealing with. So you see here, there's stores here. You can't go into every store, and also the stores have to be the stores have to be open, which they won't always be depending on the time of day. Ow, douche. So, and in a lot of different areas, there's what are called hideouts. So that's where I started here. So you see how on the map you've got those little red houses? So that's what a hideout is. So when you get to a hideout, you can save the game. These are the only places you can save the game. And you can change your character. So you can change your character anytime you want in here if you want to switch people around. So let's say, let's take a look at Bruno here. So here we go. And if you change your character, it recharges your health, though oddly enough, it does not recharge your health if you don't change your character, which is a little weird. You could change your character and change back and get all your health back, which is a little odd. So, whoops. So here's another mechanic. So if you do things in the, despite the fact that, as I said, despite the fact that this city is overrun with and controlled by gangs, they have the world's largest and apparently most inept police force, because what will happen is if you do anything in an area that is considered breaking the law, beating up other gang members is apparently not considered against the law, I guess because they feel that's worthwhile or whatever. These cops will show up. So this includes things like vandalism, like bashing pop machines, bashing these parking meters to get money out of them, accidentally hitting innocents. That will bring the cops out. And you see there that the time of day in the upper right has changed to this, to that police badge. So that means you've got a wanted level, not unlike a Grand Theft Auto game. There's only one wanted level. It is either nothing or everyone wants you dead. And what will happen is the cops will show up, and they will keep showing up, and they will show up in greater quantities. The cops are very hard to kill, and they do a lot of damage, and they will stay on you relentlessly until you go into a hideout, in which case they immediately go away. Even if the cops see you walk in here, doesn't matter, clears out the wanted level. So if you have a wanted level, you have got to find a place quickly, because killing the cops will give you experience, but it will not yield any money. And I don't know if that's a statement to how cops are compensated or what. But yeah, you'll basically be harassed endlessly by the police and the gangs, because the cops will never go after the gangs, they'll only go after you. I mean, you know, this is a weird city, to put it mildly. So that's something you have to be very cognizant of. And to be honest, the cop system is more frustrating than anything else, because I've had multiple occasions where, because the civilians will sometimes walk around in the general areas with the guys, with the gang members that you're beating up, and sometimes they will just, sometimes a civilian will just walk in your path and you didn't intend to hit them, but you did, and then all of a sudden the breaking news thing shows up and everyone wants you dead, and then you gotta go, damn it, I gotta rush and find a friggin' hideout. That's a bit of a pain. I don't really like that. You see here, there's a bunch of different types of gang members that they have different stats and their own moves and capabilities as well, and they're all hilarious, like these athletic guys who keep, you know, pelvic thrusting at you, which is really kind of creepy. You're also seeing here, as I'm beating them up, there's damage numbers coming off them, a la Borderlands. You can turn that off if you like. I actually don't mind it. I think it's kind of cool. So, okay, I'm almost dead, so I'm going to go back in here. I think I'm going to switch back to the guy. Well, let's switch to somebody else. Let's go to... I started off playing Provi. She's kind of neat. She's like a break dancer. So you see here, she has sort of her own different moves and whatnot as well. So it's kind of neat. But I haven't leveled her up as much either, so her stats are a little weaker. So... let's go in here, for example. So this is a food vendor you can enter. That sauna up the way, too, is kind of handy. It's a really easy way to heal up. Now, the thing is, you've got to learn what all these different things do. Some of them will just heal you. Others will actually give you stat boosts. You don't know what any of them are. They're not explained. The original River City Ransom was like this as well. So you're either going to have to check a wiki or you're going to have to experiment. And that's really what they want you to do, is experiment and figure out what in here is going to do the different things that you want. So... if I want this Cali roll, the neat thing is here is you can say that you'll take it to go, or you can eat it on the spot. So if you need health or you want more stats or whatever, you can just say, yo, give it to me right now. And just like the original River City Ransom, you basically, oh shoot, I took it to go. But just like the original River City Ransom, you know, you get the food, you eat the whole thing, including the plate, which I always thought was hilarious. But when it's in your, you can also buy multiple things up and stack them in your inventory, which you did not have in the original. And if you want to eat something, you just press the button, and there it goes. Provi inhaled the Cali roll. Provi enjoyed the crunchy outside of Mushi Center. So there, the Cali roll improved my willpower. My stamina is already maxed out. but my max stamina went up by 3. And weapon increases. So you see, you have to pay attention to these things and figure these out, and figure out what, what's going to give you what, and how to best maximize that to max out each of your characters. And as I said, you have to do this with each character. The stats do not carry between them. So yeah, if you want to max out all your characters, or even max out one for the story mode, you're going to grind a lot. This game is not that easy to start with. As far as I can tell, it doesn't seem to scale between single player and multiplayer. So if you're playing by yourself, it's going to be decidedly more difficult to begin with until you max that out. And while this game does have a tutorial, it's not good. It doesn't explain anything about buying food items or, oh, damn it, I hit the parking meter. It doesn't explain, you see the cops show up instantly too. It doesn't explain anything about see, there's no different levels of breaking the law, so I broke one parking meter, I might as well break another one, right? But then we'll go in here and clear it out. So it doesn't explain anything about buying items to increase your stats. It doesn't tell you that leveling up increases your max stats, but that you have to buy anything. At least I don't remember it doing that. It doesn't explain a lot about the fighting system. It leaves a lot to be desired, or not to be desired, but it leaves a lot to be figured out. Now, the original River City Ransom had no tutorial at all, to be fair, but the original also had far less to it than this one does. But it did have the, buying items to level up stats and things like that, and it didn't explain that. It expected you to figure that out. And if you're coming to this as the fan of the original, you might appreciate that. A lot of people say that too many modern games are very hand-holdy and over-tutorialize and explain everything. This most certainly does not do that, so that may be okay, but I think new players are going to come into this going, God, this game is kicking my ass. Is this like the Dark Souls of brawlers or something? They're going to think that it's just, they're going to think that it's punishing them because they were never given a proper explanation of all the different systems, and there's a lot to this, right? So it's something to keep in mind. So yeah, you have multiple buttons here. You have a punch, a kick, a jump, and a grab. And each character has their own different moves that you can do that with. As you've seen here, there are special moves you can buy and unlock, which are executed by pressing certain button combinations. One of the other things I like about Paul here is, let me knock out these two guys and I'll show you. So you see he can grab a guy and do like this sort of hockey-style gut punch to him. Does a lot, and does a lot of damage. And all the characters start off not doing very much in terms of damage, stats and whatnot, but if you go and buy different items that will level up your stats, you will eventually do more damage, and that's going to be absolutely key, because this is going to get much harder later on. If you don't level up, you're really putting yourself in a bad spot. So let's say we don't want this to go. So we consume the octopus roll. What did that give us? Ew. Stamina improved by 25. Okay, well, that's the stuff. So max stamina only increased by 1. Strength increased by 3. Also, this text thing is on the highest speed, and as you can see, it's a little... it kind of drags, right? And it would be nice if it just sort of spat all that out at you, just like, here's your stats, boom, 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 this is what you got. It does not do that. So, again, everything I'm talking about here is they're tropes and design elements of the original River City Ransom, and you're either going to like that or you're not. But they really haven't changed a lot of that very much. So this really, in many ways, does look like a sequel that you could have gotten on that system, right? Now, one of the things, another bugbear of this that, wow, I got a lot for that, actually. I like that. Let's just get one more other thing here, and we'll do that. Paul ate the edamame. Yeah, I guess edamame is pretty salty, isn't it? So I got some decent stat boosts here, right? Now, here's one of the things that I really don't like about this. So, this is a game that right now is exclusively out for PC, Mac, and Linux. It is not on consoles. It probably will be one day, but it is not. This game was also in development for a very long time and had a very extensive beta for backers as well. But it feels in many ways, from a technical perspective, like an early access game. So for starters, Rumble does not work. I'm playing with an Xbox One controller. I've tried with a 360 pad. Rumble does not work. Also, it only supports, it highly recommends you play with a controller, but out of the box, it only supports Xbox 360 and Xbox One controllers. No PS4, no Steam controller, no third-party stuff. You have to use third-party wrapper utilities to make additional types of pads work. That's unacceptable in this day and age. I'm sorry. No, that's ridiculous. You can rebind all your controls, which is nice. You see we've got them all in here. You can also, while they highly recommend you play with the gamepad, you can do different keyboard mappings as well, even for multiple players if you like, which is kind of cool. Keyboard, I mean, it plays fine, I guess, but this is definitely made for a controller. But you're going to notice that if I go into the move list, nothing maps to the controller buttons. So J is jump, P is punch, K is kick, G is grab. Okay, I mean, you can remember that, but when you're trying to refer to the move list quickly, it would be much better if this thing, I mean, it has the button mappings, they're right there in the options. It would be really nice if this actually gave you the option to have them appear in the list here with the actual button prompts rather than have to figure that out. I know the way most modern fighting games work, even on consoles, is they list stuff that way. As the actual types of attacks. Now you see I'm doing a little more damage here. They list things as the actual types of attacks rather than the button prompts. I don't know. I think that should have been an option, especially when they already have that stuff in. I'm not big on that. And you can see, of course, one of the things I haven't talked about yet is the co-op in this. So obviously the NES, at least for the vast majority of games, only supported 2 players. This game supports up to 4, and you can play local or, here, wait for it, online, which is a really cool thing. You know, a lot of indie games don't have online co-op, and it's something that a lot of people complain about, but they don't realize that implementing netcode is not the easiest thing in the world when you're a small team. And Kanatus actually went far enough as to do that, but I don't think it was implemented very well. The way the online works is you can either host a game or join somebody else's, but the problem is you can't see anything about the games that you join online. It does not say what point in the story the other person's at. It doesn't talk about what any of their character levels are. You just have to go in blind, and if they're way further ahead in the story than you are, then you're gonna probably get spoiled, and you're not gonna know it until you get in there. It's very chaotic, especially if they're in late game stuff. It's very chaotic. There's no communication, there's no text chat, there's no voice chat, there's no anything. You can't even tell who's who. You'll see the players up top, but kind of like you would here. Maybe I'll try to get into a multiplayer game and show you what I mean, but you can't see, there's no IDs. You can name your character, which is apparently something you do for the competitive arena mode, but for the co-op mode, you can't see the names of who's playing, and multiple people can pick the same character. So battles can get very chaotic, and you'll very often lose sight of your character and where you are on the screen, because especially if someone else is playing the same guy as you just can't keep track of everything. And it's really inelegant and really clumsy, and it honestly feels tacked on, which is really weird given that online co-op was considered, you know, a big deal with this game. So, yeah, maybe I'll back out here and show it to you. So yeah, you go to lobby, you can either host LAN games or you can either host or join LAN games or Steam games. The server list option doesn't work right now. No real explanation for that. I assume that's coming later. I don't really know why. But you can see it'll always find a few games. You will often go through multiple attempts to connect before you can get into a game that works, and it always kicks you back to the main menu. So you have to go through a whole process again, like I'm doing here, to just try to join a game. Let's see if I can get into this guy. Okay, so we got in here. So see here. So we've got the three different characters. You all have to be on one screen at the same time. So guys can go off screen. You can see like that. But all that does is take them out of the action until you join them when it switches screens. You can't be in different places at the same time. And you see here, while we have different skin tone, 2 of us are playing this same character, and it can get really easy to lose track of yourself. I can't talk to these people. I have no idea who they are. I don't even know what their Steam names are. Nothing. It's just like there's nothing to it, right? So one of the guys is out here. One of the things that makes online and co-op easier is he will actually come back to life if we go into another screen. So you see here, this guy actually left, so if we go over, there we are, he's back. Now, there is a penalty. You will lose some money, and you may lose inventory items. I'm not 100% sure of that one. But there is, that's nonetheless something to take into account. Also, one real major thing right now, Kanatus has acknowledged this, and if you're watching this video more than a few days from when it goes up, this will probably have been fixed. But right now, if you are not the host, none of your progress gets saved in online play. If you go to a hideout and save, it doesn't matter. All the leveling up you will get, all the stat progression that you got, it's all for naught online. There is a major bug right now that prevents any online progress from being saved, supposedly, unless you're the host. That's unacceptable. Again, this game was in development forever. It had a very lengthy beta period. How it shipped like that is unbelievable. A lot of people in the Steam forums are basically calling this an early access release, and I kind of can't blame them seeing some problems like that. That's completely unacceptable. Beyond that, there's some various different other frustrations in this that people may or may not like. As I've said, there are a number of missions in this that only trigger at certain times of day. People are probably not going to like that in some cases. There are missions or boss encounters that basically involves chasing people down. There's multiple ones, and people really are not a fan of that. This is also a mission, what we're doing right now. It's called the Milk Run. I'm not going to spoil anything about it, only to say that people really, really are not fans of this mission. It's apparently very heavily reliant on RNG, and it's incredibly frustrating what people have been saying about this mission. And of course, as I said before, there's a lot of grinding. This game adheres to the old school tropes of River City Ransom almost to a fault, I'd say. To a point where I think a lot of old school fans will like it, but a lot of modern players are probably going to be put off by it. People don't want to spend hours just punching guys, going to a hideout, punching guys, going to a hideout over and over and over again in order to be able to level up their characters enough that a boss just doesn't completely smash them in the face. That is very common. A lot of JRPGs play that way in this day and age. Games like Dark Souls, that's very common, things like that. But those games are, while they're successful, those games are niche. They are not mainstream, and there's a reason for that. A lot of people consider their time more valuable than that. I don't necessarily mind it, but, nonetheless, the grind might be a little much for you. Another thing in multiplayer is while friendly fire is off by default, you can steal other people's money right there. So when those guys got killed, whoever touches the coins first gets them. It doesn't get rewarded to each player. It doesn't get rewarded to the guy who actually killed the enemy. It's if you rush and touch the coins first, you can basically steal their money, which is kind of lame if you ask me. But, So as you can see there, I picked up a bunch of that guy's coins, and that's the case. I mean, at the end of the day, it probably balances out, but nonetheless, that's a problem. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of technical problems, but so much of the core stuff they got absolutely right. Like, the art in this is spot on. It looks like an evolution of that. It's bright, it's colorful, it's cartoony, it's goofy. The art is just top tier, and it's some of the best pixel art I've seen in a long time. Pixel art is a very common design trope these days, and it's often used by lazy indies, frankly, who can't be bothered to learn how to make quality art. But pixel art, when done right, is a true thing of beauty. And this was done very well. I mean, as I understand it, the art and the animation is part of a good chunk of the reason why this game was so delayed. And if that's the case, I mean, I'm glad they took their time in that regard, because this looks absolutely great. The one thing I will say that's a little weird is because all these animations are hand-done, at least as I understand it, they were hand-done. The game does run at 60 frames a second, but you may notice that some of the animations here, especially see when that guy's flying through the air or when I do my uppercut, there is not 60 frames in that animation. So while the game logic is running at 60 frames a second, some of the animations will look weird, and because there is not enough hand-drawn frames to fill the 60, so certain animations almost look jerky, it's a little odd. It doesn't impact, you know, the way the game plays. The game still plays fine. It's just weird to see, you know, elements run at 60 and then others not, and it's just, you know, it's a little jarring, but you get over that pretty quickly. But I mean, through and through, for better or worse, this is a River City Ransom sequel. I mean, River City Ransom was a great game back in its day, but I will say that game design has perhaps evolved in many ways that this has not. And game design, you know, adhering to, when you're designing a game largely based on nostalgia for a nostalgic crowd, I understand wanting to adhere to a lot of the things that will be familiar to people. You know, if you change this game too much, it won't be River City Ransom anymore. I get that. I totally do. But it also does feel like certain elements of game design have modernized where you could still make the game be like River City Ransom, but also bring forward some of the improvements that have come from modern systems and modern design, and it doesn't entirely feel like they did with this one. I would absolutely say that despite the fact that this does have online play, this is a game best played with friends, whether it's online or locally. I would say you should play this with friends and play it as a group together, because the problem is otherwise there's going to be great disparity in the levels. One person's going to be very overpowered, another's going to be very underpowered. Joining pub games online is just not the way to play this, because everybody's going to be at different points in the story. Like, I can tell you right now, because we're in the milk run thing here, we are much further along in the game right now than I was, for sure. And it's not, yeah, it's just completely random, and the net code is, you know, the net code is weak. Okay, I think these guys are checking out here, so let's back out. So let's host a public game. I just want to see if, I'm not sure how the arena mode actually works. It hasn't been explained to me, because it's not something you can pick, right? Oh, wait, game type. Okay, there's the arena here. So, yeah, this is basically an arena. It's kind of like just sort of a fighting game mode, but it does have bots in it as well, which is kind of nice. So, see, here it shows my name, at least at the beginning, but not in the other thing. So, yeah, so this is sort of a little fighting challenge mode. I mean, it's nice that it's here, but this is not what this would be. This is not what you play this for. So, but you see you get little matches there and things like that. Again, it's kind of cool, but maybe we could do this. Let's pick. So these are all maps that are based off the single-player maps, right? You can have modifiers, single match, best of 3. So it's like a little fighting game mode. It's neat, but again, this is not what you buy this for, right? You buy this principally for the story. So those guys both took a huge amount of damage by diving onto the cars. So, and you can see here again the chibi art style in this. Oh god, the chibi art style in this is pretty hilarious, right? You know, like the fact that these guys are all way too comically small for these vehicles that we're currently jumping on, things like that. You know, the characters don't scale to the world, and that was kind of the idea of the old Technos art style, and they captured that really well. I really like it. And you've probably seen, I've been purposely not pointing them out, but there are references in this like you wouldn't believe. Like references to 80s stuff and old video games and pop culture stuff from the era that this came out in. It's everywhere, and it's a really nice touch. Like, that's the thing, the visuals on this and the production values in a general sense are basically top-notch. I mean, this is what so here, this is one of the original characters from the original game here. So, you see, they did that, and they really did, in terms of the presentation, they really did it well, and they knew what they wanted to make here, and they absolutely did. The simple fact is that it's gonna be up to interpretation. Oh, of course, we have the sauna here as well, from the original one. You guys are gonna know what this is. Oh, I don't have enough money. Hang on. You have to see this. The sauna, this is a very good thing to be near if you want to grind out experience. I will tell you that right now. So, hang on, because you guys just got to see this. Also, there's different skins for the characters that you can pick as well. Well, this guy doesn't seem to have any unlocked, but Paul, we can do. So you see, there's different skins for them, which is kind of cool. You know, purely visual, but nice that those things are there. Yeah, I gotta show you guys the sauna. You gotta see this. Oh, hey, bro. I didn't know you could carry guys into stores with you. That's kind of cool. Sorry, ma'am. Well, I'll talk to you in just a moment. I just got to deal with this tool bag up in here. There we go. They all have horrible lines and they go out. So yeah, you want a hot sauna? Oh, look at that little chibi pixel butt. Chibi pixel butt. Paul sweated out all the tension. So there you go. You see it heals you up. And yeah, well, my max stamina is maxed out, but this is very good for health benefits. So as you can see that. But you get the little chibi butt. Isn't that cute? Yeah. So yeah, that's the thing. If you like the way the original River City Ransom played and you really just wanted another one of those, you got that with more content in it than you could have ever imagined. But if you don't like grinding, if you don't like, you know, sometimes cheap fighting systems, if you don't like having to figure out combo moves and things like that, this is probably not going to be for you. And to be frank about it, I might wait on this a little bit until they get the bugs worked out. I think for a game that had as lengthy a beta as this did and was in development for as long as it was, it shipped in an unacceptable technical state. The lack of proper support for additional controllers, the broken online progression, the sort of dodgy netcode in general, the fact that the online mode, while it's nice to have, is pretty much completely useless if you're playing in a pub game. It is all frustrating and feels half-baked to me. And, you know, the game was this was not a runaway Kickstarter. It succeeded, but it wasn't like a Double Fine adventure. It didn't make, you know, a bazillion times its goal or anything like that. And it was in development longer than they planned, so they probably got a little, and they didn't involve a publisher. So they probably got a little skinny on resources and whatnot, but still, this should not have shipped in the condition that it did, especially with so long a beta. That's just not acceptable. Yeah, it's just there's a decent number of hours to be had here, but you're going to be doing the same thing a lot of the time, and I think that's not going to be for everybody. I am personally extremely happy to see another River City Ransom game come out. I'm happy to see, you know, more indie developers from my hometown getting a little bit more exposure and getting some cool stuff out there. And I have no doubt that these guys have every intention of supporting this game. Apparently, there's mod support coming, so there may be more characters later. I have no doubt that they're going to be supporting this. Then the netcode issues and progression issues will be worked out, and things will improve. But it does feel that that maybe they just ran out of money. I don't know, but it does really feel like they could have spent. This game needed a little bit more time in the oven in that respect. But it's more River City Ransom, and you know what? We never got a sequel to River City Ransom back in the day because it wasn't that many years after that Technos kind of imploded. And I'm very glad to see that this is back. I'm glad that Arc System Works didn't get their hands on it and basically ruin it like they did with Double Dragon 4. I'm glad these guys got to realize their vision, and I hope this does well enough that they can continue to do more stuff with it and put out more content for this game. But yeah, that is River City Ransom Underground, developed and published by Canatus Creative. It is on the PC, Mac, and Linux on Steam for $15 US. I believe it has a launch sale that'll probably be over by the time this goes up. I would say probably wait for it until they have confirmation that some of the issues have been worked out, and know what you're getting into with this. You gotta like brawlers, you gotta like grinding, and it wouldn't hurt to have some very fond memories of the original as well before you go into this. But as someone who really loved the original game, I'm still happy I backed this, and I'm definitely going to get my money's worth out of it. I'm going to be playing this quite a bit. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you liked what you saw here, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. That does help me out a great deal. If you want to watch something else, check out the videos on screen now, and don't forget to follow @PXA Media on Twitter to find out about new stuff first.